So, back to doing more standardized kits this week. This time I'm happy to bring another Kitty Hawk kit. This time we'll be looking at their 1/48 scale JAS-39A and C Gripen. So let's open her up. So much like a lot of the Kitty Hawk, well, actually, all the Kitty Hawk kits that I've looked at thus far does include a full engine with the kit, which is a nice inclusion to have. On this particular sprue, we also have some of the ailerons and other odds and end parts, as well as the parts of the inlet. Now, here on the exhaust nozzle is what I personally feel is the worst aspect of this kit. The nozzle is really thick and just very poorly done, in my opinion. I would say, well, hopefully this will show up on camera, but if you can tell, the nozzle is about a millimeter thick at the outermost part, which is really bad. Definitely, I'd say look into getting either a photo etch or resin replacement, as this is really close to unusable. And the other alternative is also to sand it down, but that would be a pain to do, and you'd lose all the internal pedal detail or feathering detail inside. So obviously those are your options for that. Moving on, well, the seat detail is similarly a little bit on the I'm not sure what's the best word to describe it, but kinda feels a little on the thicker side than some of their previous releases. It could just be my eye, but it seems not quite as sharp, I guess. Granted, the back of the seat looks good, but the side paneling, though, it just seems a little thick and clunky. Now, flipping over to the other side, we have some of the weapons, which this kit does come with a lot of weapons options right out the box, so definitely hang on to the extra sprues when you're done building this kit, as it gives you a lot of stuff you can use on other builds. Carrying on, next up we've got a couple more weapon parts. I'll go a little more detail once we get to the instruction sheet, as well as the front part of the fuselage. Detail is taken care of with some insert panels that connect to the cockpit here. Now, as far as detail in the cockpit, why some detail does get added to the back here, the side consoles seem a little small. Again, could just be my eye, but the detail they do have is really underwhelming. Personally, I'm really disappointed in that regard, as thus far they've had pretty well detailed cockpits by my recollection. But yeah, just the detail really isn't there. Now, one thing this kit does include is also parts for the radar assembly, so you can pose it with the nose open up and the radar exposed, which is a nice inclusion. Would have been nice had they done it using photo etch parts, but again, slight nitpick there. Here we have the front control panel, which I do like how they did it here. It's nicely scaled, and does use decal, since it's, if I recall correctly, it's also a touch panel similar to the F-35, but instead of being one big panel, it's 3 separate ones. Continuing on, we have some more odds and end parts. A couple of them do seem a little bit, especially on the back side, a little bit on the thicker side. But again, as I said, this is just going by my eyes, and my eyes are terrible. Inlet fan looks decent. A little disappointed with the burner section though. It wasn't nice had they gone again photo etched, since they do include. Next up, we got a couple more areas, including the area for the air brakes, as well as the wheels, and part of the refueling system, which includes the option to have it out, which is nice to include out of the box, as you normally don't see that. Moving on to the main gear bay, details a little sparse, but at the same time, about all they really could do is add a couple more lines and the like. So really, they could have done a little bit more, but at the same time, it's I can understand not the hassle of adding more. Additionally, we have the part of the nose gear bay, which is fairly nicely detailed. As here we can see the side panels for that. No real complaints there. Gear doors are a little underwhelming, but they serve their purpose. As I said before, you can have the refueling probe extended, which you can see here, and the rest are just sort of odd and in parts. Now here's the main fuselage halves. Fortunately, they left these really nasty pore stubs on. Wouldn't nice had they nipped these off, but they're easy enough to clean up. Just take your clippers and snip them. But overall, definitely has a nice look to it. Continuing on, we have another set of gear doors, as well as the main upper and lower parts of the wing. Has a very thick feel to it. Excuse me. But it doesn't take away from the overall kit. We'll say this, from an aerodynamic standpoint, Delta Wings tend to have the ability to take a fairly high wing loading, and just the sort of feel of the kit gives you that sort of same sense of strength, which I know it technically has nothing to do with model building, but you know, it helps with the, I would say, the overall presence of the kit. Now, the last set of sprue is even more weapons. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but yeah, you get a lot of weapons out of the kit. I would say you can partially just use the Kitty Hawk kits, if only just for getting all the weapon assortments you get from them, because the weapons themselves are very nicely detailed. Definitely, I would say in some ways they're about, at very least, the same level of quality as the Hasegawa weapon sets, if not slightly better. Though I wouldn't say they're at, say, the same level as some of the weapons sets that Edwards been putting out recently from their Brasson line. As I got a couple of those for the AIM-54, and you know, comparing the resin to the plastic one is like comparing night and day. I would say if you're doing a sort of showcase model, definitely go with the resin sets. But I diverge greatly. Now, moving on to the clear parts. Nothing too dramatic here. Only thing to point out is I do believe this is a support beam on the main canopy part, and not just a really nasty seam line, or at least I hope it's not a seam line. Moving on to the photo etch parts, fairly basic here. This time they don't include nozzle like they did on the F-35 kit, which is a disappointment given the state of the plastic one that comes with the kit. But you've got parts for that go in the canopy and some of the electronics and bays and whatnot, as well as for an etch set for the seat belts. Overall, pretty nicely done there. Moving on to the first set of decals, contains the main kit, specifically a test aircraft, as well as the weapons decals, which now I do like the fact that they do label which set goes with what weapons system. It's very nice to keep all that together straight instead of just, you know, use decal A or decal 537. So I do prefer this sort of setup that they have here, and it'd be nice if more companies did that just for simplicity's sake. Now, the second sheet that comes with the kit, if my lack of nails can pick it up, contains the two other decal schemes. One a standard sort of line bird, but the other being a really nice Czech aircraft in tiger meat markings. And personally, I think that's the one I'm going to use, as it just looks visually very nice. Hopefully the camera will focus, but here we have the instrument panel decal as well. Hopefully that will come out alright on camera, if it'll hopefully focus. Hopefully that came out well. So, put this all back in, and then we can move on to the instruction sheet. Now again, like all of the Kitty Hawk releases, we get a nice full color manual for a couple sections. Here we can see the full armament that the kit comes with, which is very impressive just to see the entirety of it. Also, in breaking with sort of normal convention, they have the first painting option up here in front, which in some ways is nice, as you can more quickly get to it, but at the same time, you know, just from a like organizational standpoint, I think it's better just to keep them all in the back. Now moving on, kit build is fairly straightforward. No real surprises. You know, starts in the cockpit and sort of builds up from there. Primary assembly is done in a couple sections. First one being the forward fuselage, I guess I can say the word, fuselage part, and the aft section. As I said before, does include options to do the radar assembly visible, which is nice to include. Now, back assembly is much the same. My only real concern would be here in the landing gear bays, as to look at it and how they go together, it almost looks like you're going to have to attach the main gear before you close it up. Is just from the angles that it's supposed to go in here, I'm not 100% confident you're not going to have to stick it in, or we'll be able to attach it after, you know, doing primary build and assembly painting and all that. So it's something I'd be careful about. I don't think it'll be a problem, but again, no, just something to be aware of. The rest of the build, though, is really straightforward. Just make sure you put everything in the right spot. Yeah, and now I'm looking at it, yeah, no. Doesn't look like it actually tells you which... Well, no, I take that back. It should be pretty self-explanatory. Which exact part you need to put in if you don't want to have the refueling probe out, but then again, it shows you which part it is, so it should be easy enough to figure out on your own. Other than that, though, it's nothing really jumps out. as far as difficulty. Aside from possibly assembling the Mavericks, that looks like it'll be a little bit on the more complicated side, just getting everything to line up correctly. But other than that, though, build's fairly straightforward. Does not include a fuel tank, though, which I'm not 100% sure if it does carry fuel tanks, but I forgot to look that up. My bad there. But here we can see the other markings. One's Hungarian, and then we have our beautiful Tiger Meat Czech aircraft. So yeah, overall, I would say this kit's got some things right, but other things it doesn't. If I can get this part back in, I'll button it up. So overall, I'd say it's a little bit of a mixed bag. A little disappointed that it's not to the same level of quality as some of their earlier releases, but it definitely will build up to a very nice looking aircraft. Just be aware of main gear potentially not being able to be assembled without them being already cemented in. I don't think that would be a problem, but just be aware of it, and always never hurts to dry fit. Other than that, though, no, I wouldn't call this their Decals' strongest release to date, but I would say it is definitely an interesting kit. Really isn't that many Swedish jets on the market as far as model kits go, so I would say definitely it's worth an interesting look, especially considering it's becoming one of the major fighters in the world, seeing as most countries are either going with it, waiting for the F-35, as everyone's sort of written off the French fall. So that was a look at Kitty Hawk's 1/48 scale JAS-39A Gripen. Till next time.